Hi friends, so today I want to talk to you about earthquakes that are happening right now in California. There was one on Tuesday and then there was another one on Wednesday, and the experts are telling us that 3 days later usually a big one will happen. They're saying it's a possibility, it's not for sure thing. So nobody really knows, but it has been predicted in the past that a huge one will can happen any day. According to some experts, it can happen at any moment. I'm gonna share that. I'm gonna talk about that, and also I will talk about some Christian people who had dreams that they should move from the West Coast. Some people had dreams that a huge earthquake was coming, a huge tsunami afterwards, and then I will share some prophecies that people had as well. And not only the West Coast, but also a huge earthquake can happen in the middle of America, splitting America into two large sections. Does Indianola and Europa make any sense to you? It's spelled Indianola, and the second one is Europa. If it does make any sense to you, let me know in the comments. But this was a dream that one godly man had, and I was going to share it with you about his dream. So basically, I want to talk to you today about the earthquakes that were happening earlier in this week in California. And according to Daniel Hampton in the patch staff, he said that a huge one can happen any day, at any time, even tomorrow. Because since he says in the Bay Area, there's a likely hand that an earthquake will happen is 60 to 72%. So that's kind of, I believe that's a huge deal. And since they haven't had one for a while, but the experts are stating that they're trying to pinpoint when exactly it can happen, based on the three devastating earthquakes that already happened then in 1868, in 1906, and 1989. They said it was a huge earthquake. For instance, on 1868, there was a Hayward Fault earthquake, and it shook the area for 40 seconds. The magnitude was 6.8, and that was so destructive that it toppled brick buildings, walls, chimneys in Oakland and San Francisco, Santa Rosa. It was really scary, and now they're trying to prevent and see what they can do to help it doesn't happen as well. But with all the preparations that they're doing and all the things that they're stating that will help them, there's nothing they can really do. At this point, when the earthquake happened on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, they have a system that told them that an earthquake will happen 18 seconds before it happened. Imagine, can you do much in 18 seconds preparation wise? If you're on the second floor, you can probably run down the stairs and go outside, possibly, but who knows? If you're on top floor, you may not even have a chance to do that. So basically, they're stating the big one will come, and possibly even a 7.5 earthquake. If it happens in the Hayward Fault in the East Bay, it could result in 65 billion in damage. That's what they're stating. But and they were talking about residents in the California, Washington, Oregon, and even British Columbia should they live in the Cascadia subduction zone, which shows them that they can. This is a huge earthquake can happen there. It's a 700-mile fault line. So, and if that happens, a huge tsunami will happen afterwards, especially if the earthquake is in the water. When this one happened on Tuesday, it was, let's see how big it was. So basically, it was only on Tuesday they had a 4.4 magnitude quake, and that was happened in Santa Rosa at 6:30 p.m. And a lot of people have felt it, but like a lot of shaking happened. A lot of stores were like, "Oh, something is happening," but it was considered still small because every time an earthquake happens, if it's between 3 and 3.9, it's considered small. So if it on Tuesday it happened 4.3, so it was getting a little bigger, but it was still small. So for instance, they're stating that there's a 5 chance, very tiny chance, but there's still a 5% chance that a big one will happen in the next 3 days. So possibly by today, tomorrow, another one will happen. But as I was looking at the live latest earthquake website, it shows that about maybe an hour ago, let's see. So one happened 3.4 in Petrolia, California. That's like very tiny one in an hour ago. There was 4.0 happened in Puerto Madero. Actually, that reminds me, one of my comments that I had earlier on one of my videos, it talked about a person who said there was a prophecy that stated that a big earthquake will happen, and it will happen after a little one will happen on the border of Mexico and California. I think he even said the city. I believe it was, what was it? Mexicali possibly, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember the name of it, but if you remember that prophecy that was given on many years ago, it said a huge earthquake will happen, and it will happen after a warning happens, a warning earthquake on in the small town of Mexico will happen. So I'm not really sure what city, but if you remember that prophecy, let me know in the comments below. I believe it's good to be aware of these things, good to kind of know that if something does happen, it's good to be pray to God so He can protect you. So basically, there was only 47 earthquakes in the past day, which is not that many. The biggest one was in Taiwan today. It was 5.5. So that was far away from us. We won't even keep track of that. But it just shows you a lot of earthquakes, a lot of activities happening these days. And some days it's more intensifying, and that's what makes us worried. It always makes us think possibly the next big one will happen soon. And when the experts are showing that to us and they're telling us it could happen, there's like a big chance, a 50% chance, 72% chance, that's huge. I guess if you live in that area, I would really pray to know what God wants you to do and just listen to Him, see what He says. Also, so basically after that earthquake that they had on Tuesday, a lot of experts will start talking about a big one coming. So they were saying it's coming, and you never know when it will happen. I know experts are one thing, but when God is warning people with dreams, with different visions, with prophecies that things will, it will come. I know even my own a friend who had a dream that he has seen California on fire. One part of California was on fire, and another part of it, half of it, was destroyed. So, what can be such devastation? What can happen? Only a huge earthquake. Also, a lot of people have seen broken roadways, a lot of buildings were collapsing. I was reading about dreams that people saw constantly every year. And so it's very huge, a lot of I don't want to say expectations, but a lot of fear that eventually it will happen, and people just have to be prepared. Especially, like I said, especially if you live in that area, it's good to be prepared. So as I was looking through different things here, I saw a man of God. He had a dream, and in his dream, he has seen he saw in his dream he saw and that wait in his dream he saw in 2008. So God is so good. He always warns us so many years ahead. It's just like he just hopes someone will get saved, but then he keeps warning and warning people would do something about it. So in his dream he has seen that the words wind and water. He saw a man running through an old building, and when he saw him running, he saw he was running in fear. And then the building started to shake. It was so violent, it was so severe that in his dream, his teeth started to clap together from the impact. And it was so, in his dream, he knew it was a huge earthquake was happening. And then he heard the voice, and it said two names. It said Indianola, and then it said Europa, like I spelled earlier, Indianola, and then Europa was Europa. And he woke up, and he was so worried about this dream. He looked him up on the map. I'm sure you guys can look it up on the map too. And he said it's a town of Indianola, Illinois, and Europa, Missouri, and Indianola, I think it says Mississippi, but you can look it up and see if that's the case. The Mississippi River runs between them, and Europa, Missouri being in the epicenter of the Madrid fault line. If you guys haven't heard about the Madrid fault line, it's a big deal too. It's, I believe, when the huge earthquake will happen in California, something will shift in our land structure, and that will shift the plates, triggering an earthquake here in the middle of the America too. That's just my thinking, but let me know what you guys think. How can two earthquakes happen at the same time? Or maybe something else will trigger the earthquake. I'm not sure how that can happen, but it's just really scary because it has a lot of states that it's going through. And I think like 11 states that it runs through, so it's really huge. For instance, this March they had a big meeting about it because every March they prepare for a huge earthquake, and they know that they're due for one. Their experts are, I think there's maybe something more to it. They're kind of not telling everyone because they're a lot of times they're stating, "Oh yeah, we're due for a big one," but then they don't say much more. So people like have to guess, like, why do you think that? But I think they can see the plates are shifting. They're not sitting still like they used to. Now they're doing something, and that really concerns the scientists, concerns them, and they kind of start worrying. But they're stating that it will be it will be even a bigger earthquake than in than in California, because the Madrid fault line is 6 times bigger than California San Andreas fault line. And it covers, like I said, it covers portions of Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Mississippi. So see, it's 6 times bigger. So no wonder it can split America in two. That will be huge. And like this man, he had a dream that there was so much water coming in, and there was like, he saw a river and the banks just disappeared. I think when that huge one happens and it splits, the ocean will come in and it will be just like a huge devastation. So the scientists were saying that there's about 200 small earthquakes every year, and that people within that region always hear about the warnings that a huge one is coming. When will it happen? They have no clue. They just said it's one of those things that it's on the horizon. They give us like 10% chance that a magnitude of 7.0 or greater will happen in the next 50 years, but that's what they've been saying that for the past 50 years. So when exactly, like we said, we have no clue. Only God knows, and that's why he's warning a lot of people. He gives us dreams, he gives us prophecies and other things to prevent his people to suffer. If he gives you a dream, ask him why, what's going on. Is he wants you to move to another area, especially if you live near those states or in that location. So basically, they said mostly the 8 states will be affected. And Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Little Rock, Arkansas are very a bit concerned. And 45 million people in that area could be most impacted. And they said when it happened originally back in 1811, when it happened, it was huge, but in those days we did not have big buildings, we did not have bridges, and so many people. So when that happened back in, I guess when that happened, the Mississippi River started flowing backwards, and it was huge. But a lot of damage was happening, but then a lot of like earth just fell through, and it was like, wow, it caused farmlands to sink into swamps, and it was like different things that happened. But since there was not as many people as we have now, there was not as much damage. Like I said, no big buildings. So and in the Memphis area, the Interstate 40 bridge into the city received 260 million to protect against earthquakes. Hopefully that money went to use. That's all I have to say. And different things that they're doing in that area, that they're trying to prevent a huge one from destroying it. So, I mean, that's a good thing that they're doing things to prevent or to maybe make things more secure. Hopefully that will help. And also there's a prophecy that God will split America in two. God will split America in two when America splits Israel. So I'm not really familiar with that prophecy, but that's what I was told. So if you heard about it, let me know. So basically, it's just very important to be aware and to pray so God can show you if there's something you have to do, if there's a place that you'll be more safe, or your family. Another person told me in one of my other videos that he had either a prophecy that he heard or something, that this next year that's happening, the first month of the year, will be a huge earthquake will happen. And then other people have said, so it's like September, October, he said, of the new Jewish year, an earthquake will happen. But then other people told me it will happen in the springtime. So when exactly or why we think springtime, I'm not sure. Maybe different dreams that people had, they could see that it was spring. I'm not sure. But let me know if you think or if you've seen dreams about earthquakes happening. How could you tell what season it was? Maybe by little things like that. So it's very interesting to know. Um, so I also read a dream that Joe Brand had. He saw an earthquake happen, and this dream it's really old. It's like more than 30 years old. And it says that he had a dream and it was happening night after night for many nights, and it like stopped, and then the next night it just like started again at the same place. So that was like super normal. And then he has seen people dressed in different clothes, not from, because it was a 30 years ago that he saw people. So imagine how people are dressed now compared to 30 years ago. So in his dream, he was like very amazed. He's like, why? People are almost running around naked. And he also saw different cars that he never seen before. Um, I guess he was, in his dream, he was taken to Los Angeles and he could see the city. He saw the buildings, the people walking around, the cars driving, and he was just like amazed how quiet it turned. It was so quiet that he could hear the clock ticking, and also he didn't see any birds. He said he was really concerned why there was no birds flying around. Um, Possibly the birds have know when earthquake will happen and they fly away. That's possibly, or so I'm not sure what he saw, but he did say in his dream he like remembers there was no birds. It was very quiet. He saw a newspaper, and there was a president on it. A president had big ears. So which president has big ears? Is it someone today we know? Who knows? But it was just a dream that he was having, and it was like he saw before, like it was a lack of sound. It was stillness, and it was like something was getting bigger and closer, and then he could smell things. Like he could smell sulfur, almost like something like that was brewing under the earth. So then he has seen the time, and it was 5 minutes to 4 o'clock on a sunny afternoon. And I just like remember in my other videos I was talking about time and how there was a time, I think at 3 o'clock something will happen with China, and then at 4 o'clock possibly a huge earthquake will happen. So it's just different dreams I'm pulling together with times. But so he has seen a huge earthquake start. At first he said it was very tiny, like he just could hear it, but people were like, they stopped what they were doing and then they all laughed. They're like, oh phew, oh, it was an earthquake. And then when it started again, and he said it's almost like a sound came from down below, a sound like the earth was breaking, like it was something was happening, like it was splitting up, and then the water started coming. So if the water comes from down below, um, in Los Angeles, possibly, who knows? But that was his dream. And he said when he woke up, it felt so terrifying because he could hear all those people crying. All those people were like running away from the earthquake, and they couldn't run away because the earth was just splitting. It was just falling apart. And then the huge building that was standing there, they seemed like they were safe, and all the people ran into the buildings, but then the buildings couldn't support them anymore, and they all fell down too. So really scary how that could happen. I know it's just a dream, and we as Christians don't believe every dream, but when a lot of people are telling me similar stories, it just kind of makes you realize and wonder what will happen in the future. And then he said it felt like it was continuing, going on and on and on, and the water was coming in, like the ocean was coming in into the city. And then when he saw the time again, it was 4:29. So it seems like a whole half hour passed by. Um, Usually earthquakes never are that long, but who knows? But then he starts seeing other cities. He saw San Francisco. He saw other places. He saw Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon started closing in. It was just like the whole um, America started shifting. That's what I was saying. So when this big, huge earthquake happens in California, that could trigger something more big inside America too. So we're not sure how it will happen or when it will happen, but in his dream he also saw Mexico, he has seen Japan, South America, Colombia, and there was like volcanoes started shaking, and Venezuela started having some kind of volcanic activity. And then Japan he has saw that it was going into the sea as well. So I'm not sure exactly what will happen of this dream. Possibly some things will happen, some maybe will not happen. But in his dream, he knew that some places were very safe and people were not scared. And especially in America, he said in rural areas, like nothing happened. People didn't even feel a thing. But closer to the ocean, that's when people start getting afraid and start getting scared. Um, so really, I'm not really, really what I can say is that we as Christians are always preparing ourselves for the worst and then praying that it will not happen, praying that everything will turn out for the best. And people who live in these areas, to hopefully they will not be, they won't suffer, nothing will happen to them. Because God is really, He does miracles. Even in devastated areas, there's always a safe net that He would keep someone safe. So the best thing for us to do is to pray and to be holy. As long as you walk in God's love, in His Bible, you read the Bible, you pray, and you try to lead a holy life, then nothing will touch you. You won't be, there's nothing to be scared about. I think this is very interesting, really. And the last thing I want to share was that when that man was having a dream, he also saw like there was, when they realized that what was happening, they started telling other people online, on TV, on radio, and what they were saying, this is California, we are going into the sea. This is California, we are going into the sea. Get to the mountains, get to the hilltops. California, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, Utah. This is California. We are going into the sea. And he said he woke up and he could hear that voice for days. Hopefully you will not hear that, and hopefully I will not hear that. But stay well, my friends. Make sure you are in a safe place. And I still want to do a video about safety places, and hopefully that will happen one day. But so far, I want to also do a video about a cold winter that's coming, a cold, dark winter. Stay tuned. Take care. God bless.